Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Socially Desi Show, the podcast that motivates you to live, create, and inspire. If this is your first time here, welcome. On our show, we discuss tips and strategies with our guest speakers on how to tackle problems related to personal growth, mental health, relationships, entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. So hit that subscribe button and go check out our website at sociallydesi.com for more of such content. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Sumanta. He is the Secretary General of SOS Children's Villages of India. It's the country's leading childcare NGO and one of the largest self-implementing agency providing a basket of alternative care solutions for every child in need. Hello, Mr. Sumanta. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Anurag, and good morning, listeners.
Good morning, Mr. Sumanta. It's a pleasure to be hosting you on the show today. So, Mr. Sumanta, before we begin the episode, why don't you tell us a bit about your journey with the SOS Children's Villages of India? Because you joined that organization way back in 1989. So, I would really love to know about your journey so far.
Yeah, thanks, Anurag. It's almost 31 years I've been there in the organization, and it looks like yesterday as if I joined the organization. And actually, I don't know how the time flies, 31 years. And if you look
so,
back, it was really very, very fulfilling. And
Mhm.
because I started my career just at the entry level in the organization and
Okay.
working with the youth, and that was the actually the real learning I had of the organization, because ultimately the whole work of SOS Children's Villages centered around how well the children they settle in life, how they become a
Mhm.
self-supporting and contributing member of the society. So I see that was the great learning for me to start a career with the youth, to understand the challenges. And youth, actually, if you look at, they are the tomorrow's futures. And youth
Yes.
is someone who it's not a problem to be managed. They are your resources which needs to be developed. So with
Yeah.
that perspective, while working with the youth, I learned many things which probably in my social work course I never learned it.
Hmm.
And that is what from each youth I had so much of learning I had in initial years. Followed by that, I started taking care of as a village director in one of our
Okay.
children's village in Bhubaneswar. There I learned so many from our mothers, Yeshu's mothers.
Mhm.
And then I realized what is actually Yeshu's mother play a very, very pivotal and critical role for a child. The food, the clothing, and the shelter that anybody can provide, the child can still manage without that. But a child cannot manage without relationship. Without a
Right.
relationship, they feel there is no identity for a child. And it is our SOS mothers, they provide that identity to the child, and they build a very, very long-term relationship with the child. And this is where I learned how our mothers, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, taking the children and providing kind of care which looks
Hmm.
like as if they are doing something to their own children and our
Right.
mothers. And that was really a great learning experience for me, and the 9 years I spent in the children's village in Bhubaneswar, and the learning from the children, the day the child comes, and then the my learnings what I had with the youth. And while I was trying to link it, then I see the whole gambit, that how the child is having a holistic development which will make them ultimately settle in life. So that was a great
Hmm.
experience in Bhubaneswar. Followed by that, immediately there was a super cyclone in Odisha in 1999. I got an opportunity to, for the first time, to work in a relief operation. And then when
Okay.
I started working in the relief operation, and there were around so many children, those who lost parental care, so many children who are at the risk of losing parental care. The scenario, whole state was in a particular, the state capital was completely at a chaos because of that cyclone. And but good thing was that when there is a difficulty, people come together, help together, and that is what I learned from our SOS mother. And in our SOS concept, each mother, each house only takes care of 8 children. And all those mothers, they
Hmm.
come and said, Bhaiya, please go and bring as many children as you want. They need support. We are ready to take even double the number of children currently. So that gave me a kind of confidence in the goodwill that all human beings will, they
Hmm.
have. And you cannot believe, in a children's village in Bhubaneswar, we had around 300 children who lost the parent care, or they need a temporary kind of support till they find
Hmm.
their parents and relink them to the relatives. And there are all of a sudden 300 children in your children's village. So it was
Oh,
really
okay.
the kind of work everybody did at that difficult
Hmm.
time, reinforced the basic human values that we are there and one supports each other at the time of difficulties. And that's a great of our country and of the people they exhibit at the time of difficulty. And in the process, we established new children's village. And then, in the process, establishing a new children's village itself was a kind of great satisfaction when you do something from the beginning and you see a barren piece of land, how it is filled up
Right.
with the children, mothers, and things the move. And over a period of time, then I more responsible, and then also little bit taking care of the more number of children's villages across India, and then of course supporting some of our international programs, whether it is Philippines, whether it is in
Hmm. Hmm.
Nepal emergency programs, and then further strengthening the work. So in the process, many new programs were introduced, and also while the organization grew, I also grew along with the organization. And then uh, now presently I'm doing the role of the Secretary General of Association Village of India. So I'll say each stage had a great learning, great experience, and great support I received from not only from the children, mothers, youth, co-workers, community, and all those my seniors all supported and guided, and that is how where I am now today.
Hmm. Interesting. Career timeline, Mr. Sumanta. Really, really happy to see the kind of work that you have been doing with SOS Children's Villages of India. And I believe that today, I guess over 7,000 children are living with more than 400 family homes, right, inside the SOS villages.
Yes, very precisely. We have around 447 family homes and
Okay.
around 7,000 children.
Okay.
The
Hmm.
uniqueness is that now over a period of, say, we are now 56 years in
Hmm.
India, and more than 5,000 children, 5,500 children, they have been graduated from the program and they have become a self, joined the mainstream of the society, have their own independent life. And many of our girls now, the children those who are coming, many of our children's villages are the third generation children.
Okay.
So that's the kind of journey the SOS children's village, particularly in the field of alternative care. And this is a very, very unique model. Anurag, if I'd
Hmm.
say the
Hmm.
SOS care model is very, very unique model. And so I just like to add here that it's a kind of unique because it's challenged the traditional model of child care, or uh, because this program, this SOS Children's Village started way back after Second World War in
Hmm.
1949 at Austria Imst, when Dr. Hermann Miner, who started the first children's village.
Okay.
And uh, and that was a time actually after the Second World War. He was very, he was a doctor by profession, and he at a very young age lost his mother and his elder sister
Hmm.
who brought him up. Then the very concept of Issue's mother came to his mind, that yes,
Okay.
the children, they need family, and it is
Hmm.
the best place for a child to grow in his own biological family. If due to some reason or others, if the child cannot grow in a family, then we should create a family close to a natural family. So where there is a mother who heads the family, and there are boys and girls stay together as a brother and sister, and each child has a home and they are part of a community. It's a very, very simple philosophy and simple principles, and to a complex problem he showed to the world, Dr. Miner.
Hmm.
And today we are in 135 countries, and for the first time in Asia, after South Korea, we are there in India in 1964 when Dr. Miner was invited to visit India. And the first
Okay.
children's village came up with a very important personality like Mrs. Gandhi, Pandit Nehru, and Tara Ali Beg, Mr. Kaul, and many people, personality, they joined together, hand together, and then the first children's village established as Greenfield in Faridabad in
Okay.
1964. So that's the kind of
Hmm.
journey started in SOS India.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's a long and lustrous journey, I would say, for the SOS Children's Village. So, Mr. Sumanta, coming to the main topic of today's episode, to everyone listening out there, we have seen the last couple of years what has really happened with the whole pandemic coming in 2020, with the education system, completely shutting down across India. Everything was in a standstill, and children across the nation had this issue of really trying to get education on time and from their schools. And this problem with education was really felt at the grassroots level, at the rural areas, where already there were a very few avenues of getting education for these children. And now suddenly with the pandemic, everything was shut down. There was no way to get education. Like if I talk about the metropolitan cities or tier 1 cities, you could still see educational institutes going online, and students getting education through online means. But in rural areas, this was completely shut down. So, Mr. Sumanta, I would really like to understand from you, what have you seen prior to the whole pandemic situation, and what really happened with education in the rural areas during COVID?
So, frankly speaking, when you talk about education, and many of our education system is both formal and also non-formal and informal education. And if you look
Yeah,
at um, a child is a child's best friend, and a child learns more from his friend than anybody else, irrespective whether they are urban, whether they are in rural, semi-urban. And this
right.
pandemic has really posed that is a major challenge, because child now everybody is asked to be confined to their own home. So what a child missed the most is their friend. So now
Yeah.
question is, if a child missed a friend, then who someone has to replace that with that friend to a child. So someone has to now become a friend to that child. And that is what was a critical aspect. And wherever, whether it's in SOS Children's Village, whether it is in the community. Also in SOS, we work in the community, and currently more than 20,000 children across 32 locations in 22 states. We are working with the children from the
Okay.
families in the communities. And we work very, very closely, intensively with the families and with the children. And we see a common thing across, not only in our SOS Children's Village, SOS family, not only the children in the community, not only children in the normal family in the community, the children, they missed their friends.
Hmm.
And and
Hmm.
and our first and foremost attempt in everywhere is how quickly the parents become a friend to a child. So that was
Right.
the critical aspects during the COVID time we played. The second aspect is that apart from friends, they miss the play, because they were also not allowed to go out to play. And that is also happened both normal family, SOS family, community. That was also critical. So how quickly we make sure that the children, those who are not able to play outside, quickly replaced with some indoor games and some indoor activities. Third aspect was, every child has a certain kind of routine, and
Hmm.
a pandemic. It actually is a traumatic event for all of us. Forget about the children, even the adult, they were also having a difficult time. And this
Yeah.
pandemic posed, because there was so much of uncertainty in the air, so much of people do not know, and what next in store for them, for us. And at that point of time, it is very, very obvious the children will be traumatized. And in such scenario, only way is that how quickly we maintain, ensure that they fulfill their daily routine. and
True. Yes.
and once you have your routine, then you are engaged and you are into those years. But it is also God's gift to a child, that every child is resilient by nature. So that's a God gift which is not there in adult. Once you grow older, then you see, probably if you do not learn how to be resilient, probably you are not. But it's a God gift, and they overcome the trauma faster than anyone else. So that has
Hmm.
been our experience, that yes, how quickly they be in touch with their friends wherever it is possible over mobile, over internet connection, and through internet they talk to their friends. How quickly the parents become, our mothers become their friends. How quickly they restore their daily routine. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, what is important was the mental well-being. So when it
Mm.
is a mental well-being of a child, so we need to work on that sphere, because not you have to work actually more with the caregivers, because the children was spending majority of the time with the caregivers, and we take care of the mental well-being of the caregivers or parents better. So ultimately you are supporting the child, because through them
Correct.
child gets the support. So that's what also a critical aspect, which also we did it with the mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Then also
Mm-hmm.
children, they need a variety every day. And when it is not, if it is a question of 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, but when it is more than a month and so how
Mm-hmm.
quickly you provide innovative indoor games. And that is where,
Okay.
whether it is a storytelling, whether it is a painting, whether it is a kind of dance, and the kind of innovation the children they brought among themselves during that time shows that each child is by nature is creative. Only thing they need an
Correct.
opportunity. Once you give an
Correct.
opportunity, and I'm sure that they have so much of talent and so much of new way of doing the same thing. It
Correct.
was really an amazing experience for all of us, both in the community and in our SOS family. At the same time, what we realized that the nutritional aspect, what is that
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, because many times which are also restricted beyond that. So they started
Correct.
new recipe they started making in that own
Okay.
limited way, but all were available.
Nice.
So these are the
Mm.
few, if I look at it, some of those good learnings, these are all good learnings we had. And of course the challenges, now coming back to the real challenges, was the education.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because if I put it, yes, we are almost 1 year behind, and
Mm-hmm.
in a very very real terms, if you look at our learning outcomes, we are almost 1 year behind. Because having said that, we used to have a certain way of our learning styles, and
Correct.
largely the learning styles was in a classroom, face to face
Yes.
interaction,
Very
and
traditional.
very
Yeah.
traditional. And it is
Mm.
also looking at our socio-economic conditions, and also looking at the ability of the teachers to communicate face to face, and ability of the teacher to communicate through digitally. There is also a kind of challenge is there. So it is challenge from
Yes.
both the sides. One is the
Mm.
ability to have your devices with your digital devices. And if you look at, even if we are India is growing, but still it is, we are 50-50. There are still a bigger divide in India. And we have,
Yes.
and that digital device is a big divide. Even in the normal
Mm.
family where you have 2 or 3 children, also there you may have one mobile or one laptop, but all the classes are happening simultaneously during the same time. So,
Correct.
so there also the normal family, the children, they have suffered. And forget
Mm.
about the children in the communities, forget about the children from the lower income group, and forget about the schools where even they do not have the digital devices and other things. So in the process, I will say education has really affected, particularly in
Mm-hmm.
the rural areas, particularly in the areas for the children, those who are lower income group. And however, in SOS, what we try to do is the limited time, and because this was sudden, it was not something which anybody thought of that this is going to happen. So you are prepared and then you plan it. So in a very short time, you have to innovate and do things. So what we did is quickly to bring this awareness among the caregivers, particularly on COVID. So we did a kind of video messaging to all our caregivers,
Okay.
because video this mobile phone is something, I think, irrespective of economic strata, it is a reality that everybody has at least the mobile phone, whether it
Correct.
is urban or rural area. So there our team very quickly reach out to them, keeps on sending the messages which is very, very
Okay.
in their local language, to build awareness
Okay.
on COVID, to give new tips on how to engage with the children, how to prepare different kind of foods in the limited way, how can have a storytelling session, how can you
Okay.
do. So those are the tips which are there, part of this thing. And if you look at the
Hmm.
rural area also, because why I'm trying to tell this, Anurag, is that when you talk about education, if you do not look
Yeah.
at the holistically, we will not able to address the issue, because domestic violence has also increased in some of those areas because of many people in the rural areas, and where we are working, they lost their jobs. Many people,
True.
their
Hmm.
income level all of a sudden fall. Their livelihood got affected. And then in such scenario, it is obvious the domestic violence is going to increase. When there is a domestic violence, it has its adverse effect on the education of the children. So if you
Yes.
look at
Yes.
overall, it is the mental well-being of the caregivers, it is the income level of the family, it is the access to the digital device. It all contributed to have, actually it will be very, very look no not nice, but actually it's a zero development happened during that time, if a
Hmm.
child is concerned as far the education is concerned. So I see,
Correct.
if you look at 2021, I think we have to make two times and three times hard work if you want to gap overcome that gap.
Correct, correct. No, I completely agree with that because there has been a lot of news. In fact, last year when in fact, on Socially Desi also we spoke about this when it comes to the home violence, domestic violence on the rise. We saw a lot of articles over the internet which spoke about the rise of domestic violence in India, and this all had a very severe and adverse effect on a child's mental health as well as their education. So it's really important that we as a society raise awareness, because I believe that anything that we can achieve in the metropolitan cities and in the tier 1 cities can eventually trickle down to smaller regions and villages and rural areas. So I mean, Mr. Sumanta, as per you, how can we as a society play a key role in raising this awareness when it comes to education being a fundamental right for a child, and how can a family and we society as a whole can ensure that a child gets this fundamental right?
Yeah. Yes, I think it is a child's right. Education is every child's right. And if you look at it, I see myself as a duty bearer, and
Hmm.
I see all those people, those who are in authority power, or even the parents, they are the duty bearers. And
Right.
if you look at the child is a right holder. So it is the rights of the every child to demand rights from all the duty bearers. And it is
Correct.
the responsibility of duty bearers to provide rights to each right holder. I think this is a concept we need to imbibe. We cannot treat children, even if our own children, as an object. And they cannot be seen that I have a right over my own children. Each child is
Hmm.
individual. Each child has to be treated individually, and each
Correct.
child has their own liking, disliking, and we need to respect that. I think this is a
Correct.
change in mindset is very, very required. Then second reality in our society, that we many people have more than their requirement, and some people
Right.
they have less than their requirement. So I
Hmm.
think as a society we will grow when those who have more, if they can give, and not, I will say give looks very, very, it's not the right word, participate in the
Yeah.
development of others, those who are a little less. I think that's
Hmm.
critical.
Hmm.
Those who have more, they participate, collaborate with those who have a little less. So then only as a society will grow. And when as a society will grow, obviously the education of the children will improve. And the education
Correct.
is a something which a parents can give to a child. That's the only
Hmm.
gift. If you want to give a gift to a child, I see a child One is education, second is the values that we give to our children in our caring process. And these are the
Hmm.
two strong pillars which will enable the child tomorrow when they move out from the nest of their parents and to build their own life. This will play a very, very critical role. Therefore, it is essential that each one of us should understand and participate in the education of development of the children. Now, looking at the education, it is not only this formal education. What is education is that we need to provide to our children education for employment. I think that's very, very critical. It is not
Correct. Yep.
education. Yes, one education is for our holistic development so that I become a better human being. I, I,
Hmm.
I, I feel inside I am better human being. I contribute to the others. So that is what you call you become a societal good or you are good to others, good to the environment. So
Hmm.
that way, education play one aspect. So that is called value-based education. But what we are looking at India today is education for employment, education for entrepreneurship, education where you have your own living. So what is that skill we need? We may have education, but if you do not have skill, so how can we build skills in our children as early as possible? And so that
Correct.
tomorrow they not only contribute for their own development, they contribute in building the human capital of the country and contribute to the Make India campaign contribute in that direction. So the way
Correct.
that is how I see is the skilling play a very, very critical role. And this is something we need to start at a very early, and our education system needs to gear up in that direction.
No, I completely agree with that. So, how has SOS Children's Villages of India been working towards this initiative?
Yeah, first of all, as I said, when a child comes to SOS village, our first and foremost attempt is let every child enjoy their childhood. A
Hmm.
happy childhood memory will always contribute to become a person successful in life. When we
Hmm.
become adult, we always remember our childhood memory. We always
Correct.
remember a happy childhood memory, and at the time of difficulty, that actually come to our rescue. You just imagine one of your childhood memory that will give you strength, and then you look forward, leave everything setback behind. So that's our
Correct.
first and foremost approach. Every child in our country should have a good childhood memories. But unfortunately, before many children, before they enjoy their childhood, they become a adult or adulthood or young adult. So
Right.
that's a kind of society I think we need to look at. Then second
Hmm.
aspect
Hmm.
is how quickly we see that the learning is enjoyable. It is not a learning which one learn forcefully. So learning, enjoyable learning in a very, very least restrictive environment where one can explore the possibility to experiment, the possibility to try new things. I think that once we give this flexibility to the children in our education system as early as possible, the children will try new things. And when they try new things, they will start enjoying. Then once they start enjoying, then I think everything one can achieve. Then next is
Hmm.
that skilling part. So in particularly every child has some inner strengths. How do we identify? How do we identify those inner strengths of an individual? So normally in our children's village, we do a kind of test which is called multiple intelligence um, and multiple natures. So
Okay.
every person has a certain intelligence and certain type of natures. When
Hmm.
intelligence and nature are clubbed together, then the person is very, very likely to be successful, whatever the profession one may take. So we do that kind of test very early, and it's a scientific test. And so that when the child is in class 8 or something, so that we know if these are the areas the child pursue one's career, so they will be very likely to be successful. So after their completion of class 10 and 12, and they go and pick up those careers which is the part of their MIMN findings. So we set a very, very clear things that each and every child should have minimum class 10 or 12 education, at least one employable skills depending upon their academic performances, at least one employable skill, a good communication skill in English, at least, and minimum basic IT skill, and a social skill which will enable them to settle in life. So these are the five
Hmm.
minimum basic parameters based on which we judge our performance, because our performance is seen how successfully we able to make the youth settle in life. Our children move from one stage to become a say, joining the mainstream of the society. And fortunately, I will tell you that our children have not made us fail in our attempt, and almost 95%, more than 95% children, they are well settled. But still, we have children, though best of our best efforts, we are not able to settle them. So they may have to go for some kind of non-formal training, maybe in electrician, maybe in carpentry, maybe in some kind of plumbing. Otherwise, 90-95% children, they have made us proud. They are in. There is hardly any field where our children are not there. Whether it's medical, whether it is engineering, whether it is in paramedicals, hospitalities, and there are almost all the profession, audiology, MBS, so almost all the professions our children are there. But this COVID time, it also played a very, very critical role, and also affected the some of the children's employment, particularly those who are in the hospitality sectors. Whereas
Hmm. Hmm.
our many of our children, they contributed, those who are in nurses, paramedicals, they worked more than what is required, and they supported as a kind of corona warriors, and helped in their respective field. But yes, there are some youths where they lost their employment or their salary got slashed because of the COVID, because obviously the industry was the most affected. So
Yeah.
immediately what we did was, for such children, obviously we support them, even if they were not part of the program, even because you see, we support the children till they become on their own. But like in any
Yeah.
natural family, the children has some way support system they can fall back at time of difficulty. That is your family. Similarly, for a
True.
child, to us, it is the SOS, which is their family. So we immediately initial supported, but then we immediately did a kind of reskilling kind of things, a training program immediately, so that they can go for a learn a new skill and go for the employment. So these are the some kind of tweaking we had to do immediately. And
Hmm.
similarly for
Hmm.
our families in the community also, many of them, those who are lost their livelihood, for example, those who are doing the kind of small business at their own place, but now because of COVID, nobody was ready to do that. Like, for example, transportation, those who are driving auto rickshaw, and maybe some other things, they are got livelihood got affected. So immediately they transform their also livelihood, looking at the new need which arise because of COVID. So that was also a very, very good learning for them also and for us also. And I think many of our rural areas, community areas, people immediately adopted as per the requirements, and their livelihood also quickly they changed.
Hmm. Interesting. Oh, that's really good, Mr. Sumanta. And before we wrap up the episode, Mr. Sumanta, how can we as individuals, as a society, and people, how can they participate in this NGO cause? How can we sponsor, or how can we donate to the SOS Children's Villages of India?
I think first of all, um, we can contribute, we can join, and by we going to our website, that is SOS Children's Village of India, and there are certain options are there. You can sponsor a child, and by donating certain amount, and in the process you also be a part of the journey of a child's development and growth. You see how your money has contributed in the development of a child. Whether it is our family life care, whether it is our family strengthening program, you can also support them going to their website. And also in the youth skilling program, like in SOS Children's Village, we have an ambitious plan now, looking at the need and looking at that many more families, because the poverty, because of they lost the job, the poverty has increased, which will lead to more abandonment children, and there is a greater need that children need support or families may need support. So I will request everybody that it is our responsibility to support, and we support not only SOS Children's Villages, any organization working for the cause of children. I think it is, as an individual, it is our responsibility that we support them, because children's safety, security, and their well-being should be first ensured. And we should ensure that a child, wherever is there, the child is safe, secured, and their well-being is taken care. They are living at a place which is a happy, loving home for every child. It's a loving home for every child. At the end, I will say that it is each one of us responsibility to make sure that no child goes up alone.
Correct. So true. Thank you so much, Mr. Sumanta, for being on the show today. And guys, you can definitely check out soschildrensvillages.in. Go and check it out. You can get in touch with Mr. Sumanta as well. We'll put down the links in the show notes below. And with that, Mr. Sumanta, thank you for being on the show. We really loved the way you spoke about all these issues and how we can really help our children across India, across the communities to really, like you said, be eligible and competitive and complacent enough to join the mainstream of the country and be a part of this economy. So with that, thank you so much, sir, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Anurag, and thanks all the listeners. Thank you.
So that wraps it up for today, folks. If you liked the episode, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let's go viral. Remember, our weekly podcast features episodes on personal growth, mental health, relationships, business and entrepreneurship, and health and fitness. We would love to have Mr. Sumanta on our show again in the future to talk more about the wonderful work that the organization is doing in India. So, if you haven't yet done so, hit that subscribe button and go check out our website at sociallydesi.com for more of such content. And as always, before I sign off, remember, life is black and white and everything in between.